Question 2. So question 2 is the first how question. Remember, both how questions could be worth 10, or one could be 5, one could be worth 10. So the question is, read lines 10 to 7. How does the writer show what Obed went through to become a miner? So like I say, this is a how question. And also, like I said, there's two how questions in this paper. One is worth 5 and one is worth 10. So first of all, we're looking at the one that is worth 5 marks. So if it is a 5-mark question, I would be saying we should be looking for 3 to 5 quotes. But if it was me, I would be looking for 5 quotes. So whatever mark you've got in the exam, if it's a 10-mark question, I would go for 10 quotes. If it's a 5-mark, I would go for 5 quotes. So here's the extract. And you're going to do it on this part. So this is the part. So again, highlight the part of the text you're going to do and make it a lot easier for you. So here's the extract. As we go through it, try to think to yourself, how does the writer show what Obed went through to become a miner? So when the recruiting truck came from over the border, I went to them and they put me on a scale and listened to my chest and made me run up and down the ladder for 10 minutes. Then a man said I would make a good miner and they made me write my name on a piece of paper. They asked me whether I'd ever been in any trouble with the police. That was all. In Johannesburg, they spent 2 weeks training us. We were all quite fit and strong, but nobody could be sent down the mines until they were made even stronger. So they took us to a building which they had heated with steam. They made us jump up and down on the benches for 4 hours a day. And the question is again, how does the writer show what Obed went through to become a miner? So in this question, you need to have a range of quotes, like I said, from the beginning, middle and end of the extract. So if we're looking for 5 quotes, we don't just want them at the top. We want our 5 quotes to be all the way through the extract. So each line, each couple of lines, you're talking about something. And to be honest, you don't need to go in too much detail in your explanation. That's more for the 10-mark question. So this one, we're just going to pick up 5 quotes and tell us how the writer has got the question across. So in this question, you are going to analyse the writer's use of language. So this means examining quotations in detail, then explaining and interpreting them. And this question is all about where a writer deliberately uses words to achieve a special effect on the reader. So for example, the sentence could say the girl hit the boy. However, if the writer wanted to use the verb thump instead of hit, well, what does thump suggest? Well, thump suggests something that's very hard and forceful. So you could say the writer's use thump is a lot stronger than using the word hit. So that's what we're talking about, where a writer deliberately used it for an effect. Here's the things we want to be talking about in this question. We've got to be using terminology for the how questions. So adjectives, nouns, verb, word choice, and all the way down to number 10. If we find these, we're going to comment on them and say what effect they have. So there's the extract again, so feel free to read through it if you want to read through it. Again, think to yourself, how does the writer show what Obed went through? And then we're going to zoom in on 1 word or 2 word quote and explain the effect of them. So here's what I've picked out. Remember, it's only a 5-mark question, so we're looking for 5 or so things. So straight away it says, I went to them and they put me on a scale and listened to my chest and made me run up and down a ladder for 10 minutes. So the way the writer just tells us what Obed went through there is just really simply, the writer just lists them. So they picked them up, they put them on a scale, they listened to his chest, they ran and down. So I would just say that's a list. But we can zoom in on the quote a little bit more. First of all, the verb made is used. So made sounds like it wasn't Obed's choice, that he was forced to do this. Then it says run up and down. So we're getting the idea that Obed has had to go through some physical toughness to do the mining job. Then it says, then a man said I would make a good miner, and then Obed became a miner. So it's very impersonal. It's almost like Obed hasn't got any control over this. Some random man who Obed had never met before said he should be a miner, and then Obed was a miner. It's as simple as that. Again, made is used again, made me write my name in it again. So the repetition of the verb made is just exaggerating or emphasizing how much Obed has got no control over his life anymore. Then it says all the stuff, and then it says very short sentence, that was all. So the writer's telling us there that actually the process was fairly easy. Then Obed was talking and he says, we were all quite fit and strong. So the pronoun there, we, suggests that even though Obed went through this, at least he was with other people. So everyone went through the same thing as Obed. Then at the end it says they'd heated it with steam and they did it for 4 hours every day. So again, this is, what did he have to go through? Well, he had to go through some kind of training for the mines. So we're now going to analyse these words and phrases and explain their effect. We'll just do one in an example. Made, what are the connotations of made? Well, made, it could be you make something, so you make like a present or something, but the connotation we've got for this question really is made as in controlled and forced to do something. So how are we going to structure our answer? Remember, the question is, how does the writer show what Obed went through to become a miner? So number one, we're going to use the sentence starter that the writer uses. So then we're going to look at adjective and technique. So we're going to look at any technique the writer uses, so noun, simile, verb, onomatopoeia, alliteration, and then we're going to give an adjective maybe to describe it. So for example, if we're talking about the verb crush, maybe we're going to say crush is a violent verb. So we're going to look at this one. We're going to look at the writer uses the imperative, meaning an order. The writer uses the imperative verb. Okay. Number three, we're going to use the quote. So the writer uses the imperative verb made. So then we're going to look at the connotation of the chosen word. So why I've used made, why made is even a big deal for us to talk about. Well, this suggests Obed had to do this even if he did not want to or was not able to. And then put all together, we learn about Obed and what he had to go through. The writer uses the imperative verb made. This suggests Obed had to do this even if he didn't want to or was not able to. And there's a little structure that you can follow for this question. It's on bpcenglish.wordpress.com if you want to have a look at it. Okay, so banned explanations for this question. So these are explanations that I don't want you to use. The whole point of the connotation is you're zooming in on the quote, a one-word quote, and explaining why has that been used. So we don't want anything for explaining this question like this. It makes the reader want to read on. It puts an image in the reader's mind. It makes it interesting for the reader. We don't want to use any of these because they will not get 0 marks. And the reason is these statements are vague and can be made about any text. We've really got to be specific. Be specific about the word choice, why you've picked out a quote. Write your answers in order, top to bottom. That's what I mean is if you've got 5 quotes, do your top one first and go through to the bottom one. Okay, so let's look at other ones now. So all this is about showing what Obed went through for the mind. The writer shows what Obed went through by listing what had happened. They put me on a scale and listened to my chest and maybe run up and down a ladder for 10 minutes. This tells the reader what happened. Okay, so we don't really want to repeat happened, but it's a good point to start. I know this is a big quote and we said to use small quotes, but what we're not going to do now is we're going to zoom in on parts of this quote and talk about it. So for example, the imperative made suggests Obed had to do this even if he didn't want to. The repetition of made and they made me exaggerates the point that Obed is having his choices taken away from him to become a miner. So my technique there is repetition. Run up and down suggests Obed had his physicality tested during this process and had to be in good shape to become a miner. The fact that Obed became a miner because a man said suggests Obed had to give up his freedom and understand that other people would be making his life choices from then on. That was all suggests the process was fairly easy. The pronoun we suggests that Obed was not alone in his ordeal and at least had others in the same situation as him. Again, the powerful verbs took and made in the final few lines of the extract shows that Obed has given up control of his life to become a miner. And there they all are. In a word page. Again, it's available on bpcenglish.wordpress.com. Remember, this is only a 5-mark question, so you should be only spending 5 to 7 minutes on it. But all the way through my question here, all through my answer here, I've said what Obed goes through, I've given a quote, and I've said how that affects the reader. So summary for this question: keep to the structure, do a range of quotes which cover the whole extract. You're looking for 5 quotes. Try to use one-word quotes and zoom in on their effect, and explain why the writer has chosen that word. For example, made suggests Obed had to do it. They could have said it in that quotation. They asked us to do it, but made suggests they had no control over it.